Most of us know what it feels like to be tired. You're up too late, you wake up too early, and you drag yourself through the next day. But lately, it feels like many of us are carrying a tiredness that sleep can't fix. It's more than just tired. It's the weight of uncertainty. It's the heaviness of seeing conflict all around us. It's the ache of living in a world that feels angry, divided, and unsafe. Even when we distract ourselves, scrolling, streaming, working harder, or planning the next trip, it doesn't go away. Our souls still feel restless. Here's the good news. This is nothing new. When I say that, I don't mean it to minimize what you feel right now. I say it to give you hope, because the very reason this deep exhaustion shows up in scriptures is to remind us that God already knew we would face it, and He made sure to record His answer for us. The people in Jesus' time knew exhaustion too. They lived under Roman rule. They paid heavy taxes, they faced violence, instability, and pressure from leaders who placed impossible demands on them. Life felt like too much. And it's in that setting that Jesus said these words, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Jesus wasn't just talking about getting better sleep. He was talking about something deeper, the kind of rest your soul longs for when the world feels too heavy. The psalmist puts it this way, "Truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from Him." So here is the question I want us to sit with today. Could it be that the reason we are always tired isn't just because of what's happening around us, but because we are trying to carry the weight of life without God? Notice what Jesus says first, "Come to me." He doesn't start with a list of rules. He doesn't tell people to get their lives together first. He doesn't even say go to the temple or do more religious things. He simply says, "Come to me." That is important because in His time, people were being crushed by religious expectations. The Pharisees had taken God's law and added hundreds of rules to it. Instead of leading people closer to God, they made faith feel like another heavy burden. On top of that, Rome demanded loyalty and taxes, reminding everyone daily that they weren't free. So when Jesus said, "Come to me," He's offering a different way. This invitation is personal. It's not about a system. It's not about a building. It's not about checking the right boxes. It's about Him. And this is where many of us struggle today. When we are tired and overwhelmed, we often run everywhere except to Jesus. We run to distractions, hoping they will numb the exhaustion. We run to achievements, hoping success will finally make us feel secure. We run to people, hoping someone else can carry our weight. But at the end of the day, we're still tired because none of those things can give our souls rest. Jesus doesn't say, "Come to a better routine" or "come to the right coping mechanism." He says, "Come to me." That means the rest He offers, it starts with relationship, with presence, with Him. Here's the first question you need to ask yourself today. When I'm exhausted, where do I go first? After Jesus says, "Come to me," He doesn't stop there. He says, "Take my yoke upon you." Now, that might sound strange at first. A yoke is a wooden frame that went over the heads of two animals so they could pull the load together. To us, it looks like more work. But to the people listening, this image made sense. A yoke wasn't just about work. It was also a symbol for teaching and authority. Rabbis in Jesus' day would talk about their yoke, meaning interpretation of God's law. Some rabbis made that yoke heavy, piling on rules people couldn't possibly keep. But Jesus is different. He says, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." This doesn't mean following Him is effortless. Life with Jesus still calls for surrender, obedience, and growth. But compared to carrying the crushing weight of life on your own or living under the unrealistic demands of people, it's lighter. Why? because you're not pulling the load by yourself. You're walking with him. Think about that. A yoke is always built for two. Jesus isn't asking you to carry something that he's not carrying with you. He's not saying, do this for me. He's saying, do this with me. And that's a major difference between the exhaustion the world gives and the rest Jesus offers. The world says, carry it all, figure it out, prove yourself. Jesus says, walk with me, learn from me. I will carry what you can't. This is where many of us miss it. We think that the way to deal with our exhaustion is to drop our responsibilities and just check out. But Jesus isn't offering escape. He's offering partnership. He doesn't take away every struggle, but he carries the weight with you. Here's the second question for you to wrestle with. Whose yoke am I carrying right now? Jesus doesn't leave us wondering what will happen if we come to him and take his yoke. He gives us a clear promise. You will find rest for your soul. This is more than physical rest. It's soul rest. The kind of rest that doesn't depend on whether life is calm or chaotic. The people listening to Jesus were living under constant tension, political instability, social unrest, heavy religious pressures. He wasn't promising them an easier life on the outside. He was promising peace on the inside. That's what we need today. Because if we are honest, most of us try to find rest in temporary fixes. We think, if I could just get through this week, if I could just get that job, if I could just move to that place, if I could just find that relationship, then I will finally find peace. But what happens? We get the thing, and soon the restlessness comes back. Because the problem isn't just around us, it's within us. True rest doesn't come from what we escape to, it comes from who we belong to. And I know this personally. I grew up carrying a lot of trauma. Life felt unjust and hopeless. I reached to a point where I stopped believing that God even existed. My life became a constant chase for distractions, anything to fill that emptiness. I lived in a cycle of the highs of parties, friends, and moments that felt exciting, followed quickly by the crash into a depression and despair. The harder I tried to fill the void, the more restless I became. Then I met Jesus. Not religion, not rules. Jesus, and everything changed. My life didn't suddenly become easy. I still have a lot of struggles. But the weight I carry isn't crushing me anymore. For the first time, I wasn't alone at all. I discovered the kind of rest Jesus promised. Not escape, not denial, but a peace that holds even when life is messy. That's why when Jesus says, come to me and I'll give you rest, I believe it because I live it. And this promise still stands today. In a restless world, Jesus offers a peace that holds us steady, a rest that anchors our soul when everything else feels uncertain. Here is the final question for you. Am I willing to trust Jesus with my rest? Now let's go back to the question we started with. Why are we always tired? Maybe the real answer is this. We are trying to carry life on our own. We are weighed down by loads we were never meant to hold. And the truth is, nothing in this world will give us the kind of rest our souls long for. Not more money, not more achievements, no more distractions. The rest Jesus offers is different. He says, come to me, take my yoke, and you will find rest for your souls. So here's my call for you today. If you're exhausted, come to him. If you're weighed down, come to him. If you've been chasing peace in all of the wrong places, come to him. Not just once, but every day. Bring him your burdens. Bring him your doubts. Bring him your weariness. He can handle it. This week, I want you to practice this in a simple, intentional way. Every time you feel that wave of tiredness, anxiety, or heaviness hit you, stop for a moment and pray. Jesus, I come to you. Carry this with me. Give me your rest. Make it a routine. Don't carry the load alone, because his promise still stands. You will find rest for your soul. In a moment, we're going to move into the discussion part of our service. This is where we get real together. I don't want this to just be a message you hear. I want this to be a conversation we live out. And before we close, I wanted to invite you to come back next week. We're continuing this series with a message called Enough is Enough. If this week was about finding rest for your soul, next week will be about finding peace with what you have. Not chasing more, not always striving, but learning to live in the freedom of knowing Christ is enough. Bring a friend and let's grow together in this. And hello. Now we're going to start our conversation, and I would like to ask the panelists to turn on your cameras. Hello. I see that Jose has joined us with Marcus. Welcome. And I thought that this topic was appropriate for the time we're living right now. So I'm going to start with, no, first, before I start with questions, I just want to welcome everybody that is participating as attendees. I have both of my sons here. Bruno and Mateus are in today, so I'm so excited about that. Ethan is my friend from Morganton. I'm so happy you're here. And Nicole as well, and my husband Sebastian. So I have the whole family here today, which is wonderful. I already welcomed the panelists, and I am so happy you're here. I wanted to start by asking Marcus, how are you feeling right now? As far as like the topic of this conversation, how is life?
Well, I'm gonna answer you as I just answered a friend actually a couple hours ago. Emotionally, I'm very hyped up. We just came from meeting somebody that's been like a childhood hero for me. So
Nice.
that's been a really good experience. Emotionally, we're doing great. Physically, I have not felt my eyes this heavy in perhaps year and a half.
That's great.
So
Is
like
it,
I'm awake, but I'm
it
not.
is it because it's a Sabbath afternoon or just life in general?
No, life in general.
Yeah. So what caught your attention in this message?
Well, a lot of things, honestly. Just the fact that God would have you speak on this topic today. Um, I think it speaks volumes for how present He is through what we're going through. Especially as young adults, there's so much that not just is expected of us, but also that we want in life. At least I'm gonna speak in my case.
We expect of ourselves.
Yeah. And sometimes even Jose just said we expect of ourselves. I would say that even the expectations that I hold myself to can be some of the most tiring things ever. Uh, because I want to be excellent. And I don't genuinely believe that most of us are going through life thinking, I want to be mediocre. We want to be the best, which I think is a good thing. But as you were saying in the message, we try to do it by ourselves. And that is exhausting. Not just the trying in and of itself, but the exhausting feeling when you don't reach what you were aiming for. I once remember we were hearing a speaker and he was describing sin and how sin essentially means coming short, right? You aim at a target and you miss the target. And we set ourselves these goals, these targets, these aspirations, and sometimes it's like we're reaching them, but maybe not the way that we want, right? In my case, I had plans about how certain things were supposed to play out, especially in the last couple months. Certain things have gotten canceled, which meant that I was supposed to have more rest. but then that throws my plans out of like out of what I was supposed to be doing in my head, and it leaves me feeling like useless, I guess, to a certain degree, because sometimes I have the tendency to tie my worth to completing the things that I set myself to do, right? And it's not just the exhaustion that comes with constant striving, but the exhaustion that comes after having to come to terms constantly over and over again that you are trying your best, you will continue to try your best, and you still keep coming short. Um, so having Jesus come and tell you what I most love about the verse that we discussed is the fact that he doesn't tell you, oh, I'm not going to give you a yoke. Oh, you're not going to have a burden. He does not lie to you. I love the fact that he's honest and he lets me know, no, you're still trying to do things right. It's going to be a burden, but it's not the same type of burden of I'm not enough. Whereas when you're walking with him, you put your plans in his hands. Even if it doesn't work out, it's not tied to my value. Me not
Yes.
being able to complete something that I planned for myself is not directly tied to my value.
Yes, I am very curious to know what Samantha would say about that, just because she's a therapist. But I wanted to make a mention before. Samantha, I'm going to go to you next. But I want to mention that if you are part of the attendees, and this conversation is supposed to be for everybody, not only the panelists. So if you have a comment, if you have a question, you can send direct to me, or you can send it to everyone in the chat if you feel comfortable with that. But if you want to stay anonymous, if you click the Q&A in the bottom of the Zoom thing here, there's a Q&A. There you have an option to be completely anonymous. So everything that you're saying, it's quiet and nobody knows that it's you. So it's up to you. So this is a conversation among everybody. So the question right now is, how did this message hit you? What is happening in the nation, in your world, in your life? How are you doing today? Samantha, what are your thoughts on what Marcus just mentioned?
Yeah, I feel like so many people are searching for their worth and like what they do, and that's what brings them to this point. Like they're just so tired because they keep doing and they keep doing and they keep doing, and they're still not feeling that sense of worth that they're looking for. And that's because it's not in anything that we do, it's in God. And that is the ultimate, answer and the ultimate person to look to. And I think that's why there's so much exhaustion in the world today, is because we're self-focused and looking for things to bring us the worth when we're never going to find it in this world.
Yes. Christopher, what are your thoughts?
Um, I am definitely someone that struggles a lot with tying self-worth to things. I've always been kind of one of those very type A personalities. And I can you get very easily very swept up in work and school and just constantly striving for perfection, constantly working to be the best. Like I am in law school right now, and if you've ever seen any movies or TV shows about people in law school, I can tell you that a lot of it's very dramatic, but if you everything that happens like in the classroom as far as you without any preparation are randomly called upon in front of everyone to answer questions and about random things in the law that you had no idea existed before that day, and you're expected to answer them. And you can't just say, oh well, pass. If that's the case, if you try that, trust me, they'll just ask you more follow-up questions. It's very
They're preparing you for the real world.
That is what they say, yeah. It's very easy, in my experience, to get very caught up in the world and in those things. And for me, that verse really sums up the entirety of what salvation is. I think it's very easy to just think of salvation as something that just happens to you one day where you're like, oh, well, I get to go to heaven now. But I think that it's very much it's about more than that, and that obviously, like, there is something fundamentally different about the nature that you carry with you now in this world than you will in heaven. But the thing is that the point of salvation is that you become free from the world. That is the essential definition of what salvation is. It's to be saved from something. And in this case, it's to receive God into your soul and into your heart to where you can start to become free of the different things in the world, of its stresses, of the evils that you find there, and to have that state of peace in your heart.
Yes, yes. And I know it's like many of you said, and this is something that I share too. I was raised to believe that my worth is connected to my accomplishments. And the hardest thing in the world is when somebody says, like, tell me about you. It's so hard for us not to say what you do. You know, like I am what I do. And I still don't know how to introduce myself if I don't say, oh, I am a pastor. You know, like it's so connected to the things we do. Sometimes that's not the healthiest thing in the world. But also, I don't like to beat ourselves up because of that, you know, as we're discovering. I wanted to just read a little bit of the response, the poll, a little bit of the responses that I had here so we can continue the conversation. But the first question was, how often do you feel tired during the week? And the majority of the people said that most of the time. Uh, then we ask, what usually makes you feel most drained? And the answer was personal worries. That's the most answers that we had. So interesting because it wasn't work in school. Nobody answered relationship and not even social media. I had just one person answering, but most is personal worries. So much that it is connected to our mindset. Sometimes it's like how um, I think that's a good one for us to talk about it a little bit. Why do you guys think that we are putting more pressure on us than anybody else is actually putting pressure? Uh, Raise your hand if you would like to answer that. Why do you think that we are the ones that are putting more pressure on ourselves? Jose, go ahead. And I think they froze.
Oh,
No.
no, I was saying, I didn't like it was
You guys are breaking
that's my
up.
hand. Like
You guys are breaking
we
up.
don't really have a lot.
I don't think they can hear us. You guys are breaking up a lot. It's very hard to understand. The internet must be bad. You guys are freezing and breaking. I don't know if you guys can get a better connection. But in the meantime, Samantha, would you like to take that?
Yes. Wait, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Why do you think? Because majority of the people answer that what drains them the most is their personal worries. Why do you think we put more pressures in ourselves than sometimes our boss or our teacher or other people expectations?
Mm. I think it's because we tend to really struggle with maybe like our own insecurities, and we think that everybody sees that. I know for me, like I probably will read in too much to what people say of like, oh, they must see like this part of me when like, I mean, we know ourselves best, so we know what we struggle with. And so I think we're always expecting ourselves to do better and better and better. And we're very sensitive to when anyone starts to tap into like those, beliefs we have about ourselves. So I think we tend to be so much harder because of, the things that we've experienced and the things that sin has kind of taught us to believe about ourselves. So that's why it's so easy for us to be harder on ourselves than the stress that we may get from other people, I think.
And we live with ourselves 24 hours a day, and we know all of our qualities and all of our defects. And sometimes we think that people can see what is in your mind. Sometimes they didn't even notice. Sometimes they were not even thinking about that. But because we are living with these thoughts all the time, we think that everybody else does. One thing that it started bringing me peace is when I started, like when somebody mistreated me. Now, what I do is, because when I need everybody to like me, okay? It's not so much that I'm a people's pleaser, but it bothers me when somebody doesn't like me. I'm not going to change my way. I'm not going to do something. Well, it depends. Sometimes we do need to change our ways because sometimes we are not very nice. But, anyways, when I'm being nice, when I'm doing things that are proper, and this person is still is rude to me, in the past that would break me because my insecurities, my traumas and past experiences would tell that something is wrong with me. A little older, a little more mature, now I question that person, that cashier that was rude to me, knows nothing about me, doesn't know my life. It's got to be something that is happening in her life. So I have learned to separate this, and that has brought me a lot of peace. But it's not always easy because the person may not be that stranger, that cashier. It may be somebody very close to you, and it's difficult. Um, by the way, guys, this is a conversation with everybody. And sometimes I direct where I think we're going, but interrupt me and add on if you guys like to talk about something different. I'm going to continue reading here the questions. When you feel tired, what is your go to? Most people answer sleep and rest, and that is me too. Sometimes I'm so overwhelmed that the only way for me to recharge is taking a nap. I think a nap is very important. Christopher, how do you recharge?
Mainly with sleep, because that's really the only thing I have time to do for it.
If you're not studying, you're sleeping.
Yeah, but essentially, I
Jose and Marcus, let's see if your sound is a little better now. How do you guys recharge?
Can you guys hear me okay?
And now I can hear much better.
Okay, great. Um, I was gonna say that, like Christopher was saying, I felt that a lot because when I was also back in college for a whole year, uh, that's pretty much all you have time to do. And even if you don't, that's pretty much what you go to. But I think that rest takes a lot of different um, looks. It can look very differently in different cases for different people. And for many people, it's sleep. For others, for example, in my case, yes, I love sleep. I love naps. Naps are actually biblical. Um, naps and snacks. The naps and snacks concept comes directly from heaven. Okay, because when Elijah was suicidal, God gave him two naps and two snacks, and
Completely
everything
agree
was
with you.
okay.
I agree with you 100%.
Yes, it's biblical. It's heaven sent, and I'm pretty sure. I don't mean to diss on the manna because I would love to have it someday, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't manna. I'm pretty sure God gave him a very nice, complete, delicious meal. So besides that, I think that also in my case, and I think that Marcos has the same idea, music. Music is therapy and brings rest. Not all kinds of music, even though I'm a very eclectic person, I like listening to a lot of different genres. But um, a lot of times I run towards music and actually fall asleep listening to music. Um, so there's music, there's sleep, there's food, but I was also going to mention that we got to be very careful. We don't confuse rest with escapism.
I'm sorry, you broke up a
I think that's the
little.
way to say it.
Don't
Yeah, I was
confuse
saying that.
rest
I said
with
not confuse rest with. Is that how you say it? Escapism?
Escapism.
Escapism.
escapism. Hmm.
Escapism, because a lot of times we trick ourselves into believing that, oh no, I'm resting. No, you're simply running away from something. Rest is taking a pause to go back recharged with a fresh mind to fix or to continue doing what God has called you to do. Not to escape from it and then run back to it the same or even worse, which is what happens with drugs and alcohol and sometimes even music and food and actually sleep. I've had sleep for both reasons. I've rested, and other times, unfortunately, more than uh, more than the other option, it's been more to escape from something, to escape from school, to escape from depression, which is actually interesting because you're sleeping because you're depressed. To escape from personal issues that I was having, escape from many things. And so we have to, I just wanted to point that out as well, to just not confuse um, the two, to not confuse one with the other, because they can be, in our human perspective, there's a very blurry line between the two.
Yeah, and you brought it up a good point. And I don't think it's wrong for you to escape the problem for a little while. You're completely overwhelmed, you're burned out, you cannot think straight. If you need to escape for a weekend, if you need to rest and sleep for a little bit, and Samantha, feel free to correct me. You're a therapist, I'm not. I think that sometimes it's like you said, you need to have that rest to be able to think fresh afterwards. And sometimes, I mean, as long as the escapism is something that is not, that is going to hurt you, you know, like if you need to take a nap, if you need to take a break, I'm going to think it over tonight, I'm going to think it over this weekend. I think when it becomes unhealthy is that when you don't deal with your problems. You don't come back to solve the problems, but you left that one unsolved. You move to the next problem because guess what? Life is going to bring
That
you another trouble.
that's what I meant between the
Yeah.
difference of rest and escapism.
Yes, I
Because
agree with you.
escapism is when you just don't want to deal with the issue and you're just evading it. You're
Exactly.
avoiding it, and
Exactly.
you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to think about it, which is funny because a lot of times when you try to escape from something, avoiding the problem, all you do is, for example, if you're trying to sleep, you're just laying there in bed thinking about all your problems. That happens a lot.
Yep, it's true. Absolutely.
You're muted.
You're muted.
I'm trying to mute and unmute so I don't interrupt you guys, and then I forget where am I right now. Anyway, so I'm going to continue reading here the answers. Um, where do you feel more worn out is in your emotions, mind, body. Basically, mind and body are tied. I usually get more tired in my mind. That's when I get so overwhelmed that I cannot even sleep. How about for you guys? Samantha?
Yeah, I struggle with insomnia sometimes because of my mind. I think because my job, I have to be so involved, like so on with my mind. Like I will say, like I'm so tired, but it's not like, oh, my body's tired, needs sleep. It's just like I'm so mentally like drained that I don't want to like think anymore. So I definitely relate to that and how it can be hard to find stuff to recharge because it's so easy to just reach for your phone or reach for like I would definitely admit that's what I struggle with because it's like, oh, I can check off. I don't check out, don't have to think anymore. I can just scroll, I can just like whatever, like, but it's not recharging at all. So I think it's important to be very specific as to what actually recharges us so we feel like we can go back and be our best selves and not just, like I said, like escape. So I can absolutely relate to that.
And before I continue with the poll, a little bit on what I touched in the sermon. It's what do we do with the tiredness that sleep doesn't fix? And I think that's where, do you guys feel like that is the atmosphere that we're living right now in our country? You know, like that tiredness that you can sleep for 3 days in a row and you wake up and you listen to you read the next headline and you're tired all over again. Go, Marcus.
Actually, I have a funny experience with this.
Mm.
So I'm gonna be 100% with y'all. I don't stay up to date with the news. I can't. I don't particularly care. And ain't nobody telling you no good news. It's all bad news, and I don't need to know no bad news. I have my entire life. I don't need any help. I understand that I should not be as ignorant as I tend to be. Um, but anyway, why do I say all this? I made the terrible, terrible mistake of getting into the news part of social media, especially when a law was about to pass. So everybody was all over the place about this law. And I will tell you that getting fed everything that has happened in this country in terms of laws from December last year to the beginning, I believe at that time it was the beginning of September or like the end of August. That is a lot to handle. I remember being at work the next day and I thought I was fine, right? I mean, I was tired, but other than that, nothing. And I actually had my boss approach me and ask me if there was anything on my mind. He said I looked out of it and that. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm just tired. But later it clicked. Like I was not fully there to the point where he could notice just because of how much everything I had been fed. And I think this is something that our generation especially, or in this time, in this moment, we are all facing. There's so much information at our disposal, and it doesn't stop coming. Like you're hit with one thing, you're hit with another, you're hit with another, and sometimes you get the same information phrased slightly differently in like 25 different reels, because if you're scrolling for more than 15 minutes you will run into the same information, right? And we need to remember we were not created for this.
Which, by the way, 15 minutes on social media doesn't, you don't notice how long it is. It feels like 2 minutes.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah. You don't feel the time pass.
And it's very important for us to understand this is not what we were created for. This is not what our minds are wired for. We are not supposed to be receiving. Our fallen human state does not allow us to properly process this level of information. This is why we're tired.
Yep. Yeah, we are bombarded so much with so much information, and it's really hard for us to know. Okay, what is the line between being completely uninformed of everything? I think that is also not good. You need to know a little bit of what's happening, but on the other hand, even if you try to get a little bit, it's been so much. Now, I'm curious, Christopher, I'm going to go to you next, but I'm just going to read a comment here from Nicole. Nicole said, without the Sabbath, I would probably work myself to death. I need the Sabbath to rest and give it all to God. It is the most amazing gift He gave us, and I honor Him following it. The moment I started to follow the Sabbath and reading my Bible, my soul started to heal. That's wonderful. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about the Sabbath, because unfortunately, man made rules made the Sabbath so heavy that people don't understand that the Sabbath is a gift. But what I'm curious is from Christopher. How is it to be in law school in the moment that our country is so insane? And it doesn't matter which side of the spectrum you are, in which area of the whole spectrum you are. It's crazy for all of the sides. So how has it been for you? That bad?
What I'm going to say is that it's like there's kind of a tension in the air that you can kind of cut with a knife. You don't really often talk about it in class, at least not in the classes that I'm in right now, because frankly, like it's just not relevant. I mean, Trump comes out with a new executive order every day. It has no impact on contracts.
Are we becoming numb?
Becoming numb? No, 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 no. I
No,
think
because in a
I,
sense, it's like before I would get so much anxiety from the new laws or something new that is happening. Now I'm like, oh, okay.
I think generally we're becoming angrier, actually. I think that's really the cardinal sin of what social media has done to politics, because I actually spent my last semester of undergrad studying that and the impact that it has on the human brain in the political context. And often the way that the algorithms work is it only shows you things that it thinks that you'll like or that you'll engage with. So it's incentivized to show you the most extreme version of what you think. And human beings, like has already been said in our discussion, our brains are not meant to process this much information. Do you know how there have been studies, I'm not going to even try to cite them, but that have essentially said that a human being is capable of getting along with, I think, about 200 people in their lives. Add in the internet, and you have the entire world. And we have all of these like biases and heuristics in our brain that we use to navigate all of these different things, and it ends us up becoming the worst versions of ourselves very often. And it makes us angrier, it makes us hate each other more. It just breeds conflict and division and anger.
I'm curious about this study. Are you saying that we can get along or just we can deal with 200 people at a point? Or like throughout our entire life, we only get along with 200 people?
The point of it is that you become very insulated with the people that you know. You get very used to them. You get connected to them. And naturally, you develop this is the group that I'm a part of. And that starts to become like a more core aspect of your identity. I'm not explaining this very well at all, and
No, no,
I
no, but
deeply
it's
apologize for that. But
I can have an idea of what you're talking about. And especially when we talk about social media, the biggest challenge is, unfortunately, social media is not truly giving us both sides of the story for us
yes,
to be able to analyze, but it just feeds us on what we already believe because they want us to stay there. So, and that is very problematic because like we all enjoy people that agree with us. We all wanted to just hear what we already believe. And what if we're wrong? We need to have that person that tells us, hey, I love you. And because I love you, I have to tell you that this is not good for you, but we don't want that. We just want
yeah.
people that agree with us. And then social media is just putting that in a way that you only get more of what you already believe. You never hear the other side. Samantha, how is that for your therapy sessions?
Yeah, I oftentimes tell clients like to limit how much they're like on social media. I think that's a very hard thing that everyone struggles with. And it's really created just to like dysregulate like our nervous system. So we're always on edge or we're always ready to go into like fight or flight. And when that's the case, like we're not getting true rest and we're not really, thinking clearly. And I think that's what, social media, the news, all that right now is built to do is, kind of to divide us and to keep us in that fight or flight mode and not to get the, the rest that we need or not be able to come together and to have these productive conversations or to feel like we're connected. It's something I think that everybody struggles with right now because, like I said, there's so much information there, like at our hand that we never had before. And we were never meant to have all of that at one time. It's just overwhelming. And to feel like we have to always know everything that's going on. And that's absolutely not the case. It's important to be informed, but to be informed, with limits. So you're able to take care of yourself and find areas that, are in your control that you can have the energy to, give to than to feel like you're always worrying about everything in the world that's going on that sometimes we have little control over.
Yeah, and like I said, it's that fine line between, okay, how much information should I know? Sometimes I just want to shut everything off and not know anything because I suffer from anxiety since I was a little child, and it's really hard for me. But sometimes you don't have a choice. It's like no matter where you go, like anything that you're gonna do, there's so much, you're bombarded with so much information. And I think the other something else that I wanted to just mention here is how much information we get when we are not mature. Okay, the English have just gone out of the door. We are not mature enough yet, or we don't even have the time to process. I think we have, especially the younger generation. I'm talking about like people even younger than you guys. Uh, they are bombarded with information. Doesn't mean that they comprehend what they're getting. So it's so easy, like Christopher said, that we are angry, and sometimes we're angry because we don't fully comprehend what is actually happening. We get fed with information that is just one sided. We have too much that we don't have the time or even sometimes the brain, the maturity to be able to um, process everything that we're getting. Thoughts on that? And I don't know if Marcus is raising his hand or just changing his phone. Do you guys have a comment on that part of the process and the comprehension of all of the information we are getting? Samantha, go ahead.
I do think if since it starts so early, like now our brains are being wired to like constantly be searching that out and to like always be on edge. Like I said, in that fight or flight, like we're not getting the chance for our brains just to develop quote unquote normally, but not to feel so on edge. So I think now that's becoming more of a common thing where we have to they keep, going to the phones or going to social media or always feeling that anxiety because it's like now how our brains are getting wired when we're at that such a young age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like, if I'm not gonna lie to you guys, if my phone is next to me every 5 seconds, I don't have a problem with scrolling. I barely spend any time actually scrolling, but I have a serious problem. When I post something, I'm curious to know if people are seeing and if the algorithm is showing. So every 2 seconds, I'm like, did somebody comment this? So imagine I'm an adult. I know how unhealthy this is, and it's hard for me. Imagine younger generation. And sometimes I don't even know what the solution is. But going back to our point, the point of this sermon and this discussion is God will help us. I have one comment here. If someone shows you all the bad things happening in church, this might discourage you from going. There are bad actors out there who would love to discourage us from participating in government. Yes. Social media has made that so easy. And yes, maturity is such a big factor. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. When we see something that is discouraging and negative about whatever government, church, or whatever it is, it makes us not want to be connected. And when we talk about church, this is actually the reason why this has been created. Because unfortunately, even us as pastors, as church members, Christians, sometimes we do go to environments that are not the healthiest. And it's very discouraging. So that's why we're talking about this. And now I wanted to switch our topics a little into okay, we talked about the what overwhelms us, what takes away our peace. How about now what we look at? Oh, okay, Jose, go ahead.
Just a quick comment
Mhm.
before we switch to the next topic.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that also overwhelm us. We talked about the very aggressive side of social media, which is mainly politics and a lot of points of view and all of that. But there's also more passive, overwhelming factor. and that is comparison.
Mm.
Comparison, we hear that is the thief of joy, but it's also the thief of rest. And so, especially our generation, Marcos and mine, and most of the people that are in this online church right now, we are usually, I think most of us are here over 18. Most of us probably. And once you become an adult, but you're still
I'm almost 18.
Yeah, correct. Uh, and so we become adults legally, but we're still young. We're still trying to figure out some things. But I'm going to be pretty vulnerable right here. I'm going to say something that's been happening in my life. I am currently 20 years old. I'll be turning 21 in less than a month, and I'm currently unemployed, not in school, and I've been job searching since May, since I got back from school. Because I have a huge debt that I need to pay, which is why I need to work. But guess what? In these past several months, I know of people that I grew up with and that I met that are of my same generation, no more than 25 years old. One got engaged, one got married. A couple of them are doing actually pretty well in their jobs. Others just graduated school. Others are doing very well in school. Um, and I am single, unemployed, and almost 21. You know, not that I'm searching for anyone. I'm searching for a job. First of all, I'm not desperate to get into a relationship right now, but I am kind of desperate into paying that loan. I mean that debt, right? So
Well,
now,
we can put a little plug in here. Applications are open for a job application and also for a relationship application. I'm kidding.
no relationship application as of yet. I need to take some time to
He
work
needs
on
the
another.
job. He needs the
I
job.
need the job and to work on a couple of other things. But what I'm trying to say, the main point of it is comparison. As I see this stuff on social media, not only people that I know, people that I don't know, but at the same time is my generation. People buying houses, people moving out, people that are living a pretty independent lifestyle. And like I said, I'm single, unemployed, and living with my parents. At this point in my life, when I was younger, I thought that at this point in my life, I would be in a completely different situation. Because when I was younger, I would see all these 18 plus year olds, and I was like, man, they got it all together. They have their world, man. Everything's going so well for everyone. And then I got here, and it's going well for some, but I'm one of many that are the victims of comparison. And we look on social media, we hear about people, we get to know people that are of our same generation, and they're on a different scale. But that doesn't mean that I'm less of a person, that my value is less, that um, I'm worthless, or that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm stuck. It doesn't mean any of those things. I'm simply in a position that God has placed me, contrary to my own will, because He has a plan. But and this is a message that I just want to give to everyone here in the chat. If you are just like me that have been paying attention and comparing yourself with a lot of people of your own generation that are in a different stage of life that you would like to be, bring it to God and do like King Hezekiah. King Hezekiah, when he was surrounded by Sennacherib, he took his prayer, he wrote it down. He also brought the letters of the king Sennacherib, and he brought it to the temple, which in that specific moment was his secret place. In our case, could be our room, could be actually church, could be anywhere. You bring it to God in prayer, just like King Hezekiah did. But when he left from that place, when he finished his prayer and left from that place, he did not bring those letters and that prayer with him. He left those burdens at the temple. And a lot of times what we do is that we pray and we bring to God a lot of our burdens, but we carry it back with us. We don't leave them at the foot of the cross. We don't leave them at Jesus' feet, which is why we're still bearing our own yoke, which is
Yep.
why we don't have rest.
Mhm.
So, yeah, let's watch out for comparison, because it's the thief of joy, it's the thief of rest, and it's honestly the thief of an honest, vulnerable, deep connection and relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, and it's so true. Comparison kills, and comparison doesn't have to be something negative like, oh, I want to look good like that person. It can be in the sense of achievements. I'm not where I thought I was supposed to be. Now, a couple of things that it's so interesting because before I became a Christian, the rationale, and after becoming a Christian, you see these two worlds. In a non-Christian world or non-religious, I would say, this idea that by 21 you're gonna be married, have a house, have your life together, and all of that is like, what? Like they're like, you're way too young. Um, the other thing is it's how much pressure and how much in a rush we are when we are younger. Because at 20 years old, to put this pressure on you of I should have my life together by now, it's absolutely an unnecessary pressure. Now, and I like you guys know that I love you and I like to be very real. It depends because there are some people that they're 20, they're playing video game and not working and not doing anything with their lives. They don't want to study, they don't want to work, they don't want to do anything, live with their parents or play video games. I think that is a problem. Now, you're hardworking. I don't know what happened as far as the school goes, but I know you are somebody that has worked hard and has studied hard. So I don't think you're being lazy and you just want to live with your parents, just to, what is the word, moochie on your parents? If that's a bad word, forgive me. But, anyways. The point is, there are different situations. This is one of the things when I'm doing the Growing Together seminars that I go to the different churches. I ask parents to understand what is actually happening to our culture. Because when they say by your age, I already had by 20, I already had 2 kids, I was married, I had a house, and I had a great job. The life 40 years ago and the life today, it's completely different. Back then, the houses were $100,000. How much are houses today? Go to school per semester was $2,000-$3,000. Today per year is $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So we cannot compare. Yes, if you have that lazy child that doesn't want to do anything, yes, it's time to help them move, But if you have a child that, and I'm sorry, I call all of you child. It's just because I love you, not undermine your adulthood. I know you guys are adults, very responsible adults. But anyways, if you have a child that is in your house, but they're working, they're trying, they're doing their part, we need to understand that maybe the culture is changing. This concept that we had, like in United States, like by the time you're 16, maximum 18 years old, if you didn't leave your parents' house yet, you are a loser. It's not so much anymore. Maybe it's becoming kind of like it is in South America. In South America, so just so you guys have an idea, my in-laws house, so they have their 3 bedrooms small house where so my husband and his brother and his sister, they all lived in this 3 bedrooms house with their parents. Once they became adults, the older brother got married and they built an apartment on top of the parents' house. And my husband ended up coming to the United States, but their dream was to build another apartment on top of it for my husband when he got married. So that is how it is in South America because cost of life is very high, salaries are very low, and luckily they were able to actually build an apartment on top. Because a lot of people, they get married and the wife move into your childhood bedroom, and sometimes that's how life becomes. It's not because people are being lazy. So I think we need to understand all of the aspects of what is happening. Am I saying that this is going to be United States in 10 years from now? I don't know what's going to happen. What all I'm saying is, if you're being lazy, that's on you. But if you're hardworking and you're studying, you're doing your part, don't let that pressure that you should be like your grandparents, that you should have things like your friends now that are doing well, because this is going to rob your peace. I like the conversation. Oh, Nicole put some Bible passage here. One of them says, fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions. True. With love. I think she posted this when we were talking about social media. And she said that it took me years to listen, to hear, and to not respond. She also posted Romans, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with faith God has distributed to each other. And then she comments, everyone is at a different place, not better or worse, just walking in the measure of grace and faith that God has giving them. I agree. Everybody's in a different place. I actually went back to school. I dropped school when I was 17 years old, and I went back to school. So I was in ninth grade, and I went back to school. Um, and I was in ninth grade. If you're calculating and you realize that I was 17 in ninth grades because I got held back twice. I was a very good student, as you can see. But anyways, I dropped school when I was in ninth grade, and I went back to school when I was 36. And God is good, and He gave me a second chance to life that I would never. I mean, I'm so thankful to God. Nicole so comment. I live with my family, 7 of us, my parents, my aunt, and me, my husband, and 2 kids. Yep, that's life right now. It's saving us money, and honest is that it's hard sometimes, but the memories are worth it. Yes, other countries, this is normal. Absolutely true. There is several neighborhoods in the area where people from the India move here, and they always buy these gigantic houses. And I became friends with some of them. It's because they bring their parents, like their how do you say, like they're worried that they it's in their culture that they have to take care of their parents. So where they move, the parents go with them. And then sometimes their brothers and sisters and aunts and other people. I find it quite interesting, would drive me crazy, but I'm just saying. Okay. Now switching. Wow. This last part went by so quickly. I wanted to talk about like pretty much the solution on the sense of we are tired, we're overwhelmed, sleeping is not helping. I want to ask all of you to tell me a little bit, what have you like, do you have a moment that you can remember that you felt real rest? Not just sleeping, but you felt peace. Like, what are the things that you did, the practices that you do, um, that you can see God carrying you? Let me see. Samantha, you've been quiet for a while. You want to start?
Yeah. I will say I think being out in nature really helps. Like, I mean, right, recently I went to Alaska because my cousin lives there, and just being out in like nature surrounded by mountains, like felt like a very spiritual experience to me, to like really feel closer to God and away from all that distractions, as well as like having a community that I actually go to connect with. I tend to be an introvert and like to isolate myself, or like after a long day of like work, like I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with people. But I think that's when I often find myself actually the most tiredest, because I'm not reaching out and getting that connection that we're born to have. So I'd say a mixture of, just disconnecting, being in nature, and being surrounded by people that, you have a good relationship with, that you allow yourself to connect with, is probably what brings me the most rest all around, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whatever it might be.
And I love that you said like you tend to be more introverted. Last season of the online church, we talked about the importance of connection, and as much as everybody have a different way of recharging, and some people like to isolate to recharge, and I think that's good and fine. The only thing is we have to be careful to not live in isolation. One thing is to go and recharge. And I'm not saying that you have to be like a Brazilian, that you're partying and with people all the time. I'm just saying, like, we were built to live in relationship with others. And sometimes we have to get out of that absolutely isolation comfort zone to be able to have the real connection, the real experience with God. Sometimes God put that annoying person around you to build something in you, you know? Christopher, do you have a moment that you can't remember that you were overwhelmed and something you did gave you peace?
I agree with a lot with Samantha, actually. What I really like to do is just take walks alone. I get up very early in the morning. Well, maybe not very early, like 6. And I try to go to the park and just do a lap before everything starts. And it brings me a lot of peace and comfort.
6 o'clock is very early, just in case you don't know. Very early. Marcus, how about you? Do you have a moment?
Um, just to make sure that I am understanding the question properly, could you say it completely again?
Do you have a moment that you can remember that you were overwhelmed, and how were you able to bring peace? And especially if you have a moment that you brought it to God.
Prayer. But I mean, like, not prayer as in your average, regular daily prayer, saying the same prayer that you said all the time. I mean, like, bawling your eyes out before God. Like, I can't handle this. And being serious. Because as we spoke in the last season when we spoke about prayer, sometimes we try to make our prayers so prim and proper and pretty and everything. And that's part of why we don't get rest. Because we need the honesty with God. That's what he's there for. He cannot heal you from something you don't recognize. If you still think you can carry your yoke, you will continue to carry your yoke. He's a gentleman in that sense. And he's not going to come in and snatch that from you if you don't want to give it to him. So for me, it's coming to terms with the fact that I can't carry it anymore. And going to the person that I know that can. And I guess I'm going to say it this way, but like laying it on him. And a lot of the times, like I said, prayers are not going to look pretty. They might even feel slightly disrespectful if you were raised, in a very strict family like I was. Sometimes some of the prayers that I say, later I'm coming to God. Hey, I'm sorry I said that way, because I was a little, how I was at the moment.
See, I'm sorry, but I think that's the beautiful thing about God. You don't have to explain things to God, because even if you don't tell him, he reads your heart.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hypocritical of you to not do it, whatever that may be, because he already knows what's in your head.
Yes, but even if it's hypocritical, that's part of the thing that, at least for some of us, in my case, sometimes I know he knows, but I don't mean I gotta be putting all that out there. I gotta. My student
That's
pastor.
not such an
So,
oxymoron.
sometimes we want to put that filter because we
Yeah,
were
it's like I know but we don't have to discuss the fact that okay?
Yeah, God said that, so for real.
yeah.
So that definitely brings rest when you just come to him and it's like, listen, I'm angry about this. Actually, I'm partially angry with you. Be straight up. Hey, I'm angry with you because you've done things this way, or you haven't done things in the way that I expected that you were going to do. I'm tired of this and this and that. Your wife is annoying. So in the Bible, he refers to the church as his wife, And sometimes his wife is very, very
I
irritating.
am glad you clarified that part.
Yeah. No, so you're talking to God and you're
I
saying,
guess I got it. I got it right away. I was like, dang.
anything you need to say, wherever
That
the
volume
strength is
yours,
coming
Lord,
from,
is messed up, man.
like just being honest with God. And even like moments like this where we get to share about it, you get to laugh about it later because it takes that burden off of you.
Sometimes you laugh about it at the moment while you're crying at the same time.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Oh, you guys are touching things that are viral, that are so important. Um, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you finish? Yeah, okay. So two things, the way you know what? Let me leave my comment last. Jose, did you have anything else that you wanted to share? No?
Let me just add that yes, I'm gonna just add. Um, Sometimes, just going piggyback on what Marcus was saying, prayer. Um, and I think I said this before the last time that I was here. I could be mistaken, but prayer sometimes looks like silence. You don't exactly have to say something in order to pray because prayer is communication with God. And the beautiful thing about God is that God understands. And when I say God understands, I'm not saying to be complacent and say, oh, yeah, God is understanding, so I'll do whatever I want. No. What I mean by God understands is that even when you don't say anything and you're just crying, or you can't even get yourself to cry because you're that angry, or whatever the situation is, and you can't even bring words out of your mouth or in your head, you can't put your thoughts together. God understands. God knows what you mean. God knows what you're feeling. God knows everything that you've been going through, even better than yourself, because he's even in another dimension that we cannot see, because we only see the human perspective, but he sees both the human, the physical dimension, but the spiritual dimension. He knows exactly how the battle has been going on in your life behind the scenes that you haven't been able to notice. And so um I just think it is so beautiful how God not only understands, but he's actually willing and he wants us to reach out to him and to have that kind of connection with him in which not everything is pretty. Not everything is beautiful flowers and everything smells nice. Sometimes prayer looks like mud and rain and thunder and darkness and empty spaces that are actually filled to the brim. It sounds like an oxymoron, but a lot of times our minds feel like that. It's completely empty, but it's completely full.
Yep, it
And
makes sense.
God understands exactly what 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 it is. I just think that's beautiful.
Amen. I have a comment here from Nicole. Lately, I started having Bible studies with friends and making my relationship with God my greatest priority. For so long, I carried an emptiness inside of me, but now I feel full. The worries and that once weighed me down have grown lighter. And as a mom of a teenager daughter, I definitely have my share of stress. Through it all, I've learned to give my problems, my finance, my children, my marriage, my family over to Him. He takes them, and I can finally breathe. I can do that before. God's peace truly fills the spaces where my worries once lived. Amen. Amen. It's wonderful to hear. I just want to share two quick things as you guys were talking about, especially when Marcus said to come and like bawling to God. I had several experiences like that. And sometimes I question, God, why do you wait for me to be that desperate, to move, to do something? I don't think God waits on purpose. I think maybe it's like God needs me to find in that position of complete surrender, because that's my personality. My personality is difficult, and I have like very strong will. And I think God wait for the moment that I'm really desperate. And I had several times that I was praying and praying, praying, nothing was happening, when I couldn't take it anymore, when I'm bawling, when I'm desperate, then God did something that everything changed, and I think it was when I really surrendered to him. I'm not saying that every time you have to be that way, because I mean, if you live in a constant state of desperation, that would be a crazy way of living. But those moments, I had a few in my life that it was like complete, like surrendering and bawling and crying and asking questions, and why and why and why. I saw God moving in my life, and the peace that came afterwards was amazing. And another point that I think was Jose that mentioned, or Marcos, I'm not sure, as far as learning to laugh at yourself. When we learn how to do that, and instead of like, oh, I said this because, like, I say so many things wrong, especially in English. And in the past, I was so concerned with the way, like, what they're going to think, that I'm this past that cannot even speak and stuff like that. But when I honestly, the reason why we can't laugh of ourselves, it's because of pride. We wanted to be correct. We want people to see that we're good at something. We wanted to be successful. Once I start putting pride on the side, and I start like, relax, everybody makes mistakes. Not that I don't aim for the best. Aim to learn, aim to do better, aim to understand better. But until I get there, I'm still human, and I start laughing at it. Like, I'm learning how to do that. Well, our conversation has been wonderful. I am really excited that you guys were here, and the first episode of the new season. And I thank all of the panelists that were here and all of the attendees. By the way, if you're an attendee that would like to be part of the panel, let me know. Send me a message. I would love to have you. Every week, I like to have different people. There are some people, like my friend Marcus, that he's usually on, except when he's working. I mean, when he's singing at a church somewhere. Otherwise, he's usually here. And we have like a core group of young adults that help me with this. But I always like to have new people coming in. And if you wanted to participate, let me know. If you have a topic that you like for us to cover, let me know. There are so many. This is your space. This is for you. This is for young adults. This is a ministry that was born out of a conversation at camp meeting. And I think this is a need for a lot of young people that either they don't have a physical church to go to, or they do have a church, but they don't feel connected to their church. So this is for you. And I ask God to continue blessing us, and for you guys to continue coming back. Next week, like I said, the topic is enough is enough. So we will get into that next week. So for now, thank you all. Thank you all, the panelists. And I hope to, even if you're not in the panel next week, I hope you join us and share. Let other people know, that others know that we have this space here. By the way, for if you're watching later online, just know that to receive the link to be able to part live, I put in the discussion below not discussion, the comments below, description. I put how you can receive the link every week to be able to join. And this also stays live on, not live, it's streaming live on YouTube, so you can also watch all of the other episodes of the first season and all of that. So that's it. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.